Is up, YouTube? This is your host, Ranee B, here to spill that homicidal tea. And today's blend is a hallucinatory blend. Ooh, fun, kind of like my 20s. Okay, well, this blend, it'll make you see visions and have feelings of those maybe no longer with us around you. Creepy stuff right around this Halloween season, so as always, viewers, please like and subscribe and share. I have heard that if you feed the algorithm what it wants, it rewards you by recommending your videos. So eat up, algorithm. I will say whatever you want, algorithm. Well, within reason. Well, no, I'll say whatever you want. I ain't classy. This story, okay, you really are going to have to open up your mind for this one. A lot of you are going to call it rubbish, and that's cool. I personally believe in all of this stuff. So, I have firsthand experience with some of this, so that's me. It ain't got to be you. That's cool. Give it a dislike, whatever. Let's just revisit these cases that have been solved from beyond the grave, like this one, the solved homicide case of Melanie Uribe. It was late one night, around 10:45 p.m. in December of 1980, December 15th, 1980 to be precise, and Paul Woods was driving along, minding his own business, until he noticed two men rushing toward a black truck sitting at a stoplight with a lone female driver. One man ran up to the passenger side while the other forced his way into the driver's side, shoving the woman to the center of the truck's bench seat. Well, by this time, the passenger side intruder has made his way into the truck front passenger seat, blocking her exit. And while the woman screamed, the truck sped off into the night before anyone could even react. On December 16th, 1980, around 5 a.m., Los Angeles County Fire Department received a call stating that there was a truck on fire in the 1100 block of Bromont Avenue. When 911 operators asked if the occupants were inside the vehicle, the response was, "The only thing visible inside the truck is a nurse's uniform." Across town, friends and co-workers of Melanie Uribe were wrought with worry since she never showed up to her shift the previous night at Pacoima Hospital in Burbank, California. Panic was setting in. Where was Melanie? In another part of Burbank, on December 17th, 1980, a 32-year-old woman by the name of Etta Smith worked as a shipping clerk at an aerospace firm, Lockheed, in Burbank, California. Now, this was considered a very high-level position that came with a great amount of respect. So Etta wasn't some goofy, freewheeling young woman. She was a distinguished woman with a long record for being direct, no nonsense, but professional. As she settled in for the night after work, hearing about the missing nurse case on the radio, she her spidey senses perked up. The radio station relayed what efforts the authorities were employing to locate this missing nurse, named Melanie Uribe. It was when Etta heard the news story that she started having terrifying visions. The report continued in more details, and the feelings that Etta got that she was experiencing, they just got more and more unbearable. The reporter continued that local investigators feared the worst for Melanie Uribe, a 31-year-old nurse who had gone days without being seen. It was when this detail came over the airwaves that Etta claimed that she first started hearing an inner dialogue. It wasn't her own voice, though. Even though it was just a thought in her head, she said it felt like someone was talking to her. The voice said to Etta, "She's not in a structure." And then in her mind's eye, it took her somewhere rural, like a canyon-like area. And it was a curved road and then an off-beaten path. And plants were on both sides of her field of vision. Something blurry and white was on the ground. It was kind of the way she would describe it. It was like a first-person video game where you're just seeing things fly by you. And then it just faded. That's all she could get from the vision. And it just disappeared. But Etta's spirit was rattled enough for her to call detectives with this crazy tale. Now, here's the thing. Etta was not a psychic medium or a clairvoyant or a clairaudient or clair-whatever voyant. She never even had hunches for lucky lottery numbers. She was just an average woman listening to a news story. She could not shake it, though. She just could not shake it. almost like an invisible force was making her obsess on these high-def pictures that would just not stop racing in her mind. It wouldn't let up. So Etta then decided to see if maybe calling the police would help ease her spirit, so she did. And when Etta spoke to the detectives in charge of the Uribe case, she explained to them what she experienced, and their voices obviously had tones of, give me a break, lady. But yeah, they were polite. So she explained to him that she felt that she was insane too, and she didn't know what to do with it. So she only had one outlet, and that was to call them. She went on to say that just in case that some soul or spirit was trying to contact her for help, she really felt like she'd be doing the universe wrong for not notifying authorities of this potential gift from beyond. Well, Detective Lee Ryan, a now retired Los Angeles police officer, said that he appreciated Etta's information and he gave her credit and extra credibility since she came to them on her own terms. When he asked her why she contacted them if she felt so strange about the weird feelings, Etta said that her conscience was bothering her. Ooh, bad choice of wording, Etta. This made Detective Spidey's senses tingle. I mean, was she bothered because she had something to do with it? Did she know more than she was letting on? And she was using this psychic vision thing as an approach to put distance between herself and the crime? He was just going to let her talk, which is an interrogation tactic that works for a lot of guilty suspects. Well, Etta continued talking, saying that she believed that the place that she saw her in her head was Lopez Canyon. It was located in Los Angeles County, and this is where she believed the nurse's body was. They wrote it all down, and after Etta told them everything that she could, she left the police, on the line, not really being able to shake the feeling that the officers, they were just going to blow her off. She wanted them to investigate these leads further, but she just didn't feel like they were. Well, I mean, Detective Ryan, he did have a willingness to listen, but she still wasn't convinced. She decided to drive to Lopez Canyon herself with her 2 young daughters and her 20-year-old niece in tow. I don't know if that's wise, though. I mean, if you think you're going to find a dead body, why are you taking kids? But anyway, I ain't here to pass judgment. I'm just here to tell you a story. As they got closer to where Etta felt the nurse's presence, she began getting really deep, unsettling feelings in her core. Like dread started following after. When she got out of the automobile, the pressure and foreboding feeling that she just, it was almost unbearable. She knew that Melanie was dead at this point and that they were close. The energy it still hung in the air from what happened there. And Etta, she was hot on its trail. Well, she started feeling that Melanie had felt like Etta started feeling what Melanie had felt, like the trauma and the pain in her head, and it's almost like a carnal fear spread quickly over her. Walking deeper into the shrubbery-lined dirt path, she could tell she was getting closer, and she looked down and she saw tire tracks. She felt this punch gut drawing feeling again, this adrenaline and dopamine kicks that, shoot through you when you're terrified. She felt the need to actually physically touch these tire tracks. And when she did, more flashes of fear and struggle quickly ripped through her mind's eye. She knew she was close, but not close enough. So she was drawn back to her van, pulled a little bit deeper into that brush by forces she could not even see, much less control. Driving slowly, they spotted something white in the bushes. There, she saw more clearly as they got closer, and it was 2 nurses' shoes sticking through the shrubbery. The energy overloaded that had been overloading her, it lifted. She was herself again. This is what the voice in her head wanted her to find. So armed with this information, the women immediately found a forest ranger in the area and led him to the body. The medical examiner's team was called out to the scene, and it was later confirmed through autopsy that this was indeed Melanie Uribe. She had been robbed, indecently assaulted, and horrifically beaten in the head with a blunt object. Police asked Etta to come back to the station to give her statement, but a statement is not what they wanted. They wanted her to give a confession. Police were 100% convinced that Etta was responsible in some way for Melanie's murder. As Etta was interrogated, she was adamant that she had nothing to do with this murder, and she only wanted to help. The detectives then asked her, to explain how everything went down. What did she see happened? Well, this made perfect sense to Etta because it's the best way to get to the leading up part to get to the suspects in her vision, she thought. So she cooperated. Start at the very beginning of what she started feeling, and then they asked her to explain it again. And then again, to establish a timeline. Well, it was at this point that, I mean, they asked her to fill in gaps and stuff, and after several hours, Etta realized what they were doing. They were trying to get her pinned to a timeline and have her give inconsistencies, but her story stayed the same. Regardless, they still considered her a suspect, but not really the assistant that she was thinking they were to the investigation. So she just knew too much about the crime not to be involved. So the investigating officers thought that Etta was absolutely involved, either an accessory to the crime before or after it was committed, since there were those big gaps in her story, and it didn't help that there were no other leads to follow, and there was a lot of pressure from the public to solve this horrific murder. Etta still wanted to prove that she was motivated by anything. Etta still wanted to prove that she was not motivated by anything but the desire for justice. So she agreed to take 2 polygraph tests. She passed them both. But this means nothing either way. It can't 100% clear you as a suspect the same way that it can't 100% indict you as a suspect. They're not admissible. Etta was arrested and charged with being an accessory to the murder of Melanie Uribe. Etta was shocked and stunned, but she was almost still in a trance. Like Melanie was there comforting her just to hold on, and the truth will soon be revealed. Etta was quoted on Unsolved Mysteries saying that she didn't know if she was going home or to jail, and it was weird because she just didn't care. Well, Etta was in jail for quite a few days, and unbeknownst to her, though, new details in the case had been discovered, and people were starting to come forward with new information. An informant was one of those people, and they told detectives that after someone in their neighborhood who was hanging outside just chilling with his peeps, they left and came back later. When they returned, they were boasting to everybody about how they just killed a woman. A lot of people heard this guy, and well, people in the community were afraid. I mean, they had to live with these people. I mean, there's a code of the streets, and in this neighborhood, talking to the police, that could mean a death sentence. So they were scared. Well, combined with the press dying down, a little bit, and the cops not coming around that neighborhood so much, and then learning through the news outlets that the woman that these people were bragging about killing was probably this missing nurse on the news, who was a single mother of an 8-year-old boy, and that she was just driving to work at the hospital, to help people. Well, that made people start feeling compelled to come forward and do the right thing. Paul Woods also found his way to the police station to give his statement on what he saw that night at the stoplight a few nights earlier. Investigators used their known informants for this particular area, and this proved fruitful. Their informants led them to the suspects, and police were able to determine that a total of 3 suspects kidnapped and robbed Melanie Uribe and then drove to Lopez Canyon in the San Gabriel Mountains, indecently assaulted her, and then beat her to death while she begged for her life. These men, they were located, and luckily, thank God for other witnesses who had heard them bragging about it, and arrests were made, and a total of 3 men were involved. Lewis Carnell Morgan, 20 years old at the time, a 17-year-old whose name was not released, being due to him being a juvenile. You got to protect these great kids. And Spencer Nelson, a 21-year-old. They were all taken into custody and subsequently charged with the murders after they confessed. They received life sentences for these horrific crimes and most likely will die in prison. You know what I want, though. Well, this whole time, at all this other stuff going on, Etta was still in jail. She was thinking that she was going to take the rap for this whole thing, but on December 21st, 1980, a corrections officer came by her cell and unlocked her cell door and said, "You're free to go, boo." They explained to her that the detectives had booked 3 men and charged them with the crime. So all's well that ends well, right? Well, not quite. Etta went back and sued the LAPD for wrongful arrest. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, dude, what do you expect? And now, as someone who has had firsthand, many times, picked up and correctly relayed information to people from loved ones who have passed, I've never assumed that anyone is accepting of this gift at all, even as small as mine is. And it's not a whole lot that's happened, but I've had a few. There's a lot of people who think it's garbage, and anyone who's blessed in this area will tell you, you don't pass judgment on them. That's cool. Believe it or not, you don't. When you can communicate with spirit, it's never about convincing anyone of your ability to be a conduit. It's not up to you. It's not your job to convince anyone of anything. You either can, you can't, so what? It just is what it is. And believe me or don't. I mean, it doesn't affect what I know is my truth. I mean, you know. But anyway, Etta went ahead and sued the crap out of the LAPD, and after 6.5 years, she won. Her case was based on the fact that finding a body is not a crime. Having information about a murder itself is not a crime. Having information about the murder and not giving it to police is not a crime. Now, let me interrupt this, attorney. I mean, yes, sir, that is a crime. It's called obstruction of justice. But anyway, go back, take your bar exam, boo. He went on to say that having a vision is not a crime. Again, true, but it's fucking weird, girl. So don't assume everyone just gets your gift and believes in it. Well, the judge agreed in saying that probable cause was not shown by the evidence. Dude, she knew where the body was. I mean, I would say that was pretty good probable cause, but I'm not a lawyer. They won their case, so what the hell do I really know? Etta went on to assist other, not LAPD, police departments with their missing persons cases and, homicides and things that with her suddenly found clairvoyance. I haven't dug into those cases yet, but we might be hearing more from Etta, or at least from the victims talking through Etta. I mean, that is it for this case. And what's your take on it? I mean, being that I've had firsthand experiences with Departed before, I can see where Etta was right, but also being a skeptic, I can understand science and the law requires proof. I also get that. So I'm not sure how I really feel about her getting money from the police department for wrongful arrest. But I also know that I don't know how she was treated. So she might have been abused, and that does happen. So I will claim ignorance. And just thank the universe that Melanie was able to come through and focus my energy on that instead of my opinions on the civil case. So yay, Melanie, good for you. I hope her son is okay. That had to be, oh my God. Anyway, I can't find much on him. I tried, but I can't locate him. I don't know his last name. I don't know his first name. I did find that Etta may have since passed. I'm not quite sure. Like if she has, I hope she doesn't start coming and hiding car keys from me for scoffing at her settlement or anything. Because like my best friend and I, who both have this little clairvoyant experiences together, we've sworn to each other we're going to screw with one another after we pass. So whoever goes first will be messing with keys, moving furniture, opening pop in the fridge to let air escape, genuinely screwing with each other from the other side. I mean, that sounds like heaven to me. Yeah, I need therapy. Anyway, we will see you in the next video. And hopefully sooner than later. See you later. Bye.